Did you start it? It's all good. Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Rivers, and me and my group, our project was called the Animal-Human Chimeras, a method to solve the organ transplant shortage. Question mark. I'm gonna cut this. Hi everybody, I'm Rivers, and me and my group did our project on animal-human chimeras, a method to solve the organ transplant shortage. This was done by me, Rivers, Adriana, Gabby, and Rachel. So as an introduction, this is in the category Better Life. Our topic name was Animal-Human Chimeras. Our main study question was, should animal chimeras be created for the purpose of solving the organ transplant shortage? So everyone who did the project, like I said before, me, Rivers, and I'm the presenter and a researcher. Then we have Adriana, who is a note taker and a researcher. Gabby, who is our editor and researcher. And also Rachel, who is our facilitator and our researcher. We are all researchers. So presenting our whole case study to you. Like I said, our title is Animal-Human Chimeras, a method to solve the organ transplant shortage. So we're going to start back, give you a situation, meet little Timothy. Timothy was born with a genetic liver disease that hinders the flow of bile and can cause liver failure and death. He was jaundiced from the first few weeks of life and had excessive itching due to a buildup of blood, of bile acids, and other agents excreted by the liver. Biliary diversion surgery was successful temporarily. At approximately age 2, Timothy was placed on the UNOS waiting list for a liver transplant and was fortunate to eventually receive one. For those of you who don't know, the UNOS waiting list is what all individuals are placed under that are needing any sort of organ. If you needed like a liver like Timothy, or you need a new heart or pancreas, then you'd be on the UNOS waiting list. Depending on how your condition was doing, if you were doing very poorly and weren't expected to live much longer, you would go up on the waiting list. If you were treating your body bad, then you would go down on the waiting list. It's a very competitive sport to even get an organ, and it's a very sad industry, and that's why the animal-human chimera system was created to try and shorten the sad organ transplant shortage, if that makes sense. Like shortage, like we don't want there to be a shortage anymore. So Timothy was able to get an organ when he was 2 years old, and he is alive and well today. Others, however, are not as fortunate as Timothy. Some 7,600,000 people in the United States are awaiting organ transplant. A shortage of organ donors led to 457 deaths last year alone. Since the NHS, the National Health Service, for the first time, biologists have succeeded in growing human stem cells in pig embryos, increasing the possibility that one day soon we may develop human organs in animals for later transplant. Nicholas Wade summarizes how controversial procedure. Nicholas Wade summarizes this controversial procedure. The approach involves generating adult stem cells from a patient's skin, growing the desired new organ in a large animal like a pig, and then harvesting the organ for transplant into the patient's body. Since the organ will be made of the patient's own cells, there would be a little risk of immune rejection. This means that the human organ growing pigs would be examples of chimeras, animals composed of two different genomes, a human and a pig. When the human stem cells are implanted into an early pig embryo, the result is an animal composed of mixed pig and human cells. So to summarize our whole project, A way to solve the organ transplant shortage is to take pig embryos, implant specific adult stem cells from the patient you wanted the organ, and plant it in the pig embryo. Then the pig would grow, growing the organs inside with the human stem cells. This way, instead of taking just a regular pig heart and trying to put that in someone, the body would immediately reject it. But if you took human stem cells that were already in the pig and put it in someone, it would be their own human stem cells, so the body is way more likely to accept that organ and cause the individual to live. So, to summarize a biblical ethical position, should animal chimeras be created for the purpose of solving the organ transplant shortage? The biblical position that we chose was no, it's not acceptable in general, but would be acceptable under the certain situations such as curing those under the curse of creation. We included a little GIF here, a little video that kind of sums up the position. So at first she's disgusted, and then she's like, wait, no. Okay, well maybe yes. This way, when you first think of our idea of causing pig organs inside someone, you're like, that's gross, no way. But then you think about it, and you're like, wait, this could save lives? You're like, no, that's a pig. But then you're like, but wait, they're human stem cells, and someone could live. So it's kind of, our group and ourselves went back and forth trying to decide a good position, and we think this GIF kind of sums it up well. So from the biblically derived principles, we found these two in sections A and section E. The first was the shepherd-king principle, and the second was the creation normative principle. So from a Christian perspective, the creation normative principle says that we are authorized to fix the negative effects of the curse of creation, since man's sin is what caused the curse. So in this whole principle, it's talking about how when God first created the earth, it was perfect, and he created this ideal world with everything, sunshine and rainbows all the time, because it was just perfect. But because of man's sin, God cursed the creation, and we are living in that today. There's pain, suffering, things like that. That's because all about the curse on creation. So in this principle, it's saying because of man's sin and the curse on creation, we now have to be creative in solving that curse and helping each other in any ways we can. And the second is the shepherd-king principle, which talks about how humans rule over this land. We were given the authority by God to play God. This includes our dominion over animals. We play God by helping someone fulfill their organ need by using an animal's organ. So in the shepherd-king principle, it's talking about how since God gave us the authority on this earth, we get to, in some senses, play God here on earth because we have the authority. So to say that we have dominion over the animals, which is very true, it gives us the right to use them in any ways we seem fit, whether that be a hamburger or solving someone's organ problem. Some more Christian perspectives. In the Growing Human Organs by the Stanford Medicine team, they also discuss the complex of playing God. Now this wasn't from the divided principles, the biblically derived principles. It was from the Stanford Medicine team, which is a different outlook, but they still thought the same thing, that in this, creating your own organs for someone would be like playing God. And our second perspective is in the worldview of Christian theism. It discusses how humans have intrinsic value. In Genesis 1:26 through 27, it talks about what distinguishes human beings from animals. This being said, humans have the position to do whatever they need with the animals because they have the dominion over them. Again, we're talking about this dominion over the animals, which we have because of the authority God's given us, and we can do whatever we want because of that, because human life has intrinsic value, and we need to uphold that any ways we can. So now moving into some biblical worldview assumptions. The first one is kind of what we've talked about so far. God put us over animals, so we have dominion over them. We have the say over how we use them. As humans, we are more advanced than animals, so that is why we have dominion over them. And God gave us animals for food, so why not use them for organs? And the second worldview, the biblical worldview assumption for Christianity would be humans and animals should stay two separate entities. God designed us as two different flesh, so that is how we should stay. Both could be biblical assumptions, and both could be right depending on where you look. So now moving into the secular perspective. To start off, secular humanism believes that men are fully capable to make themselves happy with no God or other deity. So secular humanism is a form of naturalism, atheism, where they were put on this earth, it's just them, there's no God, and they can do whatever they see fit, because who's going to tell them no? There's no God. So secular individuals believe that humans are animals. Humans cross species all the time, so therefore it is okay. Human-animal chimera is in no way morally wrong, but encouraged, because it can save lives, and they don't see any difference but just taking a pig organ and putting it in someone, because humans and animals are the exact same thing. So some secular worldview assumptions. The first is, according to secular worldview assumptions, humans are no different than animals biologically. Believers in this worldview claim that our ethics are deceived by ranking values. So since we have a thought process that all human life is precious, and our ranking system will go humans, then animals, then plants, then like a rock. But for secular worldviews, they would see it all the same thing. Probably not rocks, but all life is life, and we would all be in the same group, and there wouldn't be this ranking system. The second worldview they have is in 2016, Boric claimed that it is our brain which makes us human. So in other words, by this statement, Boric was saying that there is no difference between humans and animals, except the ability to have intelligent thought. So kind of along the same lines that we're all the same, except humans have a brain which makes them better, but does that really make us better? Kind of the argument there. The third assumption is by Kuhn, who claimed that moral humanization is simply because of our self-consciousness. So instead of because of our intellect, it's because we have a self-consciousness which makes us stand out from animals. The same line of, is that really a big deal? It's just a little thing. But besides that, we're all the same. And the fourth secular worldview assumption, the main theme of secular worldview assumptions is that humans are animals distinguished only by cognitive ability or self-consciousness. So we're kind of taking those last two assumptions, our intellect and our self-consciousness, and putting them together to say those are the two things that stand us apart from all animals. But besides that, we're all the same. There's no real reason that humans are so grand compared to animals besides those two reasons. Okay, so now we're going to go on to our personal worldviews as in members of our group. So the first member of our group to speak up as her personal worldview was Adriana. So Adriana Jack said, and I quote, "I feel that we should use animal-human chimeras, but only in certain circumstances. Only in certain circumstances. For example, if there was no way, 0% chance of survival, then we can consider animal-human chimeras. I also feel that if they had time to live, to wait to see if they could get a human organ from eunos." So It's pretty self-explanatory. She's saying it'll be your last option, and you should probably wait till you're on your deathbed to do it, to see if UNOS can come through for you and provide you with a regular human organ that your body can hopefully accept. Okay, our next personal worldview was Rachel Davenport, and she said, as I quote, "I believe that in some certain situations we should use animal-human chimeras, such as if there was a shortage of parts needed to live, with no survival. But in other situations that there is a way to live, then yes, animal-human chimeras are still appropriate." So Rachel's taking the stance that even if it was your last chance, or even if it wasn't, it would still be appropriate. You could still use those organs, and all is fine and dandy. The next member of our group was Gabby Bryce, and she said, as I quote, "For this I find it a little crazy that we can use animal organs to help our bodies with our own organs. I will say this is very interesting that this could work, but at the same time I feel it would be a last resort if I had to use it. To me, it would be interesting to have an animal part in me. I would wonder how it all would work. Would the organ just stop working, or would I be okay? All in all, I think it would be for the good, but at what moral cost, and right would it truly be?" And our last personal view, I think it's the best worldview, was by Rivers Rogers. And she said, as I quote, "The organ transplant shortage is a tough dilemma. Of course I would like to save every life possible, but the how is very important. I don't think humans have the right to play God. It is very true, however, humans have authority over animals, but having authority to eat them versus having authority to use their organs as our own are two very different things. This is a very large difference. There is a very large difference between human beings and animals. Human life is special and made in the image of God. We need to protect and cherish human life. So in this regard, I believe animal-human chimeras are accepted when it comes to saving a human life." That was all our group's personal views connecting to the issue of animal-human chimeras. And then we have some references to represent all the knowledge and work that we put into our project. Thank you, and goodbye.